The city is wrapped in its usual gray shawl of fog. Not the gentle kind, but the thick, soupy sort that clings to your lashes and tastes faintly of coal smoke and damp brick. You can't see more than a few steps ahead. But you know the street well enough, Bucks Row, or maybe something seedier, just off the Strand. Even the rats here have a tired look about them. A single gaslight flickers outside the crooked boarding house you call home. The glass is cracked. Moths flutter around the flame like tiny ghosts. Somewhere nearby, a cat yowls. A carriage clatters past, wheels screeching on the uneven cobbles, and the driver swears at the fog. You stand by the front door, corset half tightened, your shift wrapped loosely around your arms, feeling the chill creep into your bones. There's no fire in the hallway, it's never lit this early. Coal costs money, and warmth is considered a luxury in this line of work. Then, a knock. Not loud. Not urgent. Just, deliberate. The knock that says the night is beginning. You don't rush to answer. Instead, you breathe in slowly, roll your shoulders back, and run your fingers through your hair. You've learned not to show too much eagerness. That puts men off, or makes them suspicious. Better to look a little tired, a little mysterious. That's what the madam always says. Outside, your first client of the night is waiting, he might be a gentleman or a chimney sweep. You won't know until he steps through the door, the gaslight hitting his face just right. You only know this, the night has started, and you are no longer just yourself. You are a performance, a secret, a commodity, and a survivor. By day, this building poses as a lodging house, though no one lodges here long unless they work here. The brass plaque by the door simply reads, Mrs. Halloway's rooms, nothing more, nothing less. Officially, it's a boarding house. A place where women of modest means might take in sewing or assist in clerical matters. That's what the neighbors are supposed to believe. And perhaps, on the rarest of occasions, someone even does. But after dusk, the truth breathes through the walls. The hallway smells of damp wallpaper, spilled gin, and aging perfume. The carpet is threadbare. Not even mice bother with the parlor anymore. But at night, the house transforms. Candles are lit, shawls are tightened, and the ladies come down the stairs one by one, each in their own practice style, each a different fantasy to be rented by the hour. There's no sign that says, brothel, of course. That would be illegal. Instead, there are signs only those in the know can read. A red scarf tied to the lamp post. A particular flicker of curtain in the upper window. If a man lingers too long outside, the doorman coughs twice, once to warn him, twice to welcome. The girls refer to the house in code, depending on who's listening. It might be the kitchen when they're talking in front of strangers. The palace when they're being sarcastic. Or number 9 when they want to keep things quiet even among themselves. But to you, it's just the house. A place that shelters you, exploits you, and defines you, all in equal measure. The wallpaper peels like old secrets, the ceiling leaks like regret, and yet, it's home. At least for now. No one stays forever. They either get out, get lost, or go under. And as you walk through the hall to prepare for the night, your boots brushing against ash and sawdust, you wonder, not for the first time, which path you're on. Madame Halloway isn't her real name. No one knows what that was, or where she came from, or how she ended up owning a place like this. Some say she used to be a chorus girl. Others whisper she was once married to a nobleman. The most popular story is that she stabbed a lord in the thigh with a hatpin when he refused to pay, and walked away with his pocket watch and half his pension. What's certainly true is this: she sees everything. She sits at the end of the hall in a velvet-covered chair that sags in the middle, a long cigarette holder perched between two fingers, her corset laced so tightly it could crack walnuts. Her eyes are sharp, blue and bloodshot, but always watching. She never misses who comes and goes, who's late, who smells of liquor, and who's stolen extra coin from under the chamber pot. Her rules are strict but simple. No men upstairs unless they've paid. No fighting in the parlor. No skipping the doctor's check. And never, never, fall in love with a client. She keeps a black notebook in the drawer by her chair. Every girl's name is in there, written in tiny ink strokes, what she owes, who her regulars are, which nights she's missed, and what pills she's asked for. If you ever ask to see your page, she only smiles and says, "Don't worry, darling, you've got plenty of time left." But there are some things the madam doesn't write down. She remembers the girls who didn't come back. The ones who left in the middle of the night with a bruised eye and a bleeding lip. The ones who disappeared during a police raid and were never seen again. And somehow, she remembers your mother's name, though you never told her. She once murmured it while handing you a tin of rouge, as if she were passing along a secret from another life. Madame Halloway runs this house like a kingdom. And though she rules it with an iron corset and a sharp tongue, there's a flicker of something beneath it all. Maybe guilt. Maybe sorrow. Maybe just memories of who she used to be. But you wouldn't dare ask. The dressing room is cramped, hot, and smells faintly of ironed linen, old powder, and sweat masked with lavender. A single cracked mirror hangs crooked above a rickety vanity, its surface streaked with fingerprints and years of candle smoke. The flickering light gives everyone's face the same ghostly hue, flushed cheeks, hollowed eyes, and a glint of something uncertain. You don't have a wardrobe. None of the girls do. Instead, there's a shared trunk at the foot of the bed with a tangled mess of corsets, bodices, and petticoats, most of them third-hand and a little threadbare in the wrong places. You rummage through until you find something that fits well enough, something tight but not too tight, something low-cut but not scandalous unless requested. Tonight, you choose a wine-red dress with frayed velvet at the cuffs. It smells like rosewater and spilled gin. The corset takes two of you. You brace yourself against the edge of the bed frame while one of the other girls, Kitty or Maud, pulls the laces until your ribs creak. You gasp, not out of pain but habit. Then you smile at your reflection. Or try to. It looks more like a grimace. Rouge comes next, made from crushed beetles and grease. You dab it onto your cheeks with a fingertip, then smear some onto your lips. There's no such thing as subtlety here, men don't pay for modesty. You blacken your lashes with burnt matchsticks. A little coal dust to line the eyes. A dab of sweet oil behind the ears to hide the mustiness of the room. A borrowed ribbon, faded lilac, gets tied around your throat. You've worn it so many times it feels like a part of you. Some of the girls go for drama, fake beauty marks, wild curls, bold colors. Others try to look like governesses or the girl next door. You fall somewhere in between, inviting, but forgettable. The kind of face that draws interest without provoking questions. There's a kind of armor in all this. Dressing up isn't just for show, it's how you protect yourself. Behind the lace and paint, you're someone else. Someone who doesn't flinch when touched. Someone who doesn't cry when the door closes. By the time you're finished, you no longer look like the girl who woke up in this bed that morning. You've become your night self again, the version that earns. The floorboards creak as you step into the hallway, shoulders back, chin lifted. Show time. The house never has a true silence. Even now, with the gas lights dimmed and the door bolted behind the last maid, it hums with the soft creaks of footsteps, hushed giggles behind closed doors, and the low moan of wind threading through the window panes. You wait in the receiving parlor, what the madam jokingly calls the drawing room, though there hasn't been much drawing here besides curtains and breath. The wallpaper is peeling in swirls, the settee sags in the middle, and a dusty chandelier hangs above like a tired spider. There's an empty vase on the mantel. It has never held flowers. The fire is lit, but weak. It crackles with more sound than heat. You sit beside it, smoothing your skirt and tucking a stray curl behind your ear. The air smells of burnt sugar, old cigars, and coal smoke from a neighbor's chimney. Then the bell rings. Not the doorbell, the tiny brass one on the parlor wall. A thin chime that means, a gentleman has arrived. Madam doesn't need to tell you who's next. You already know. The girls keep a mental list, and tonight you're third. You stand slowly. You've learned not to rush, men like mystery. They want to imagine you've just been laughing over poetry or brushing your hair by the fire, not sitting in silence picking at your nails. You walk to the door, shoulders back, face calm, and open it. He's standing there, hat in hand, already red in the cheeks from drink or nerves or both. Mid-40s. Gray mustache. A little stoop in his shoulders like a man who bows too often. His coat smells faintly of tobacco and rain. He doesn't speak, not at first. They rarely do. Instead, he looks at you as if trying to place you in a dream he's not quite sure he wants to remember. You smile, gently, professionally, and extend a hand not to shake but to guide. Up the stairs, past the flickering oil lamp and the creaky fourth step. Your boots make a soft sound on the worn runner. His shoes thump heavier. You know by the way he walks that he won't stay long. 15 minutes, maybe 20. You'll have time to wash before the next. The night has truly begun now. And with it, your work. No two are ever the same. You've seen the whole spectrum of London manhood parade through this house, tailcoats and ragged boots, cufflinks and missing teeth. Some reek of cigars and brandy, others of sweat and sorrow. Some come here to forget, others come to feel something, anything. You learn to tell their stories before they even open their mouths. The dock worker arrives with his shoulders already sagging, soot in his fingernails, hands rough as bark. He says little, only grunts, and gives you the coins first, laid neatly on the dresser like an offering. He's kind in a strange way, careful not to look you in the eye, as if ashamed of needing softness. Then there's the poet. Young, with ink on his cuffs and big, nervous eyes. He smells faintly of lavender and crushed paper. Talks too much, laughs too loud. Cries when it's over. Sometimes he brings you a book of his own verses, pages still damp with glue. You keep them under the mattress, unread. The butcher's boy comes on Fridays, hands sticky from some unseen errand. He asks you to call him, sir, though he's barely 20 and flinches when you touch his wrist. And once, just once, a gentleman, real or pretending, walked in with a silver pocket watch and gloves that cost more than your rent. He didn't ask for anything unusual. Just conversation. He sat beside you and told you about his wife. Her illness. How he missed the way she used to smile before the war took her brother, and the fever took her joy. He left you a gold coin on the bed and whispered, "Thank you," like a prayer. They all come looking for something. Relief. Fantasy. Escape. Power. But the worst ones come looking for control. They wear smiles like blades, and you learn the warning signs, tight lips, quiet footsteps, the way they glance at the lock before they speak. You keep a knitting needle under the mattress, just in case. You've only had to show it once. Each night is a lottery. A roll of the dice. But even when it's bad, even when it leaves a mark, you don't get to choose. Because the rent doesn't care what bruises you carry. And morning is still far away. They're not written anywhere, not on paper, not on signs, but the rules are as real as the walls around you. Every girl in the house knows them by heart, because forgetting them can mean bruises, disease, or worse. Rule 1, never go upstairs without payment. Coins in hand before the candle is lit. Always. No promises, no "I'll pay after," no sob stories. You've learned to smile sweetly while blocking the door with your body. You've also learned that shame doesn't make a man honest. Rule 2, lock the door. Always. Even if he seems gentle. Even if he's come before. Especially if he's come before. A bolt slid into place gives you at least one moment of control, one barrier between you and whatever may follow. Rule 3, don't work sick. It's not kindness, it's policy. A coughing girl brings risk, and madam doesn't tolerate risk. If you're pale and weak, you're off the floor and into the spare bed. Not to rest, but to sweat it out in silence. You still owe for the missed hours. Rule 4, obey the curfew. Men leave by dawn. No exceptions. If someone's still in your room when the milk cart clatters down the alley, there'll be trouble. You once saw madam throw a colonel's trousers out the window just to make a point. Rule 5, no romance. Ever. Falling for a client is the surest way to lose your mind, your money, and usually your place in the house. Some girls forget. They believe his whispers, his flowers, his drunken talk of running away. It never ends well. The last one who tried, well, you don't speak of her now. There are softer rules too. Unspoken ones, passed between girls like shared combs and borrowed ribbons. Don't laugh too loudly, it makes them nervous. Let them talk first, it tells you everything. And never, never, let them think you need them. Because if you forget who you are in this house, someone else will decide it for you. In a place where your body belongs to others for most of the night, your mind becomes the last place you can call your own. So, you guard it fiercely, fortified by superstition, small rituals, and whatever comforts you can scrape together from the cracks. There's the bottle hidden behind the bedpost, cheap gin, flavored faintly with juniper and whatever grits made its way through the cork. One girl drinks a swig before every client. Says it helps her forget the smell of wool and wet breath. Another mixes laudanum into her tea, just enough to make the corners of the room go soft and blurry. Not enough to sleep, just enough to float. But not everyone drinks. Some girls light candles, one before every man, then blow them out afterward like morning. Others tie charms into their garters. One has a bone button she rubs before she opens the door. Says it's from her mother's coat. Another whispers the same Latin phrase every night. You asked her what it meant once. She said, "May he be quick, may I be still." You read tea leaves. Not because you believe in them, not really, but because it gives your hands something to do in the quiet between men. After a long night, you empty the cold dregs of your cup into a saucer, stare down into the mess of brown spirals and flecks, and pretend the answers are there. Once, you saw the shape of a bird, freedom. Another time, a crown. Wealth. You laughed. Mostly, it's just blobs. But sometimes you see a path. Narrow. Twisting. Leading somewhere that isn't here. You don't tell anyone about that one. Not yet. You also write, though never much. A line or two scratched into the edge of old ledgers or newsprint scraps. Not poetry. Just lists, really. Places you want to go. Things you want to wear. People you'd be, if things had been different. None of this leaves the room. You don't talk about these habits in the hallway. You don't show your soft parts to the girls who've learned to hide their own. You all have your methods. You all have your quiet ghosts. Because surviving this life isn't just about the money. It's about keeping the smallest, secret piece of yourself untouched. Once the door is closed and the bolt drawn, the room becomes a world apart. Everything outside, laughter in the hallway, the ticking of the clock downstairs, even the rain against the shutters, fades to a dull hush. Now, it's just you, him, and the quiet negotiations of breath and space. Each room is slightly different. Yours is on the third floor, under the slant of the eaves, where the ceiling cracks like spiderwebs and the wallpaper peels in fat curls. The bed creaks even when no one's on it, and the small window barely opens. But it's yours. Or as close to yours as anything in this life gets. There's nothing seductive about what happens here. It's not how they show it in paintings. There are no fainting couches or silk drapes. Just a wash basin with lukewarm water, a drawer with folded cloths, and the soft crumple of sheets that have been slept in by strangers every night for years. Most men don't want conversation. They want the illusion of control, of importance, of being noticed. You've learned how to give them just enough of that to keep things calm. A nod at the right moment. A practiced gasp. A compliment that sounds natural, even if it's not. Sometimes they're fast. Sloppy. Grateful. Sometimes they cry. Other times, they're quiet in a way that makes your skin tighten. They study you too long. They ask questions you don't want to answer. Those are the ones who stay in your memory longer than they should. You've built a second self for these moments. She's composed, smooth-voiced, never flinches. You send her to meet them. You stay tucked behind your own ribs, where it's safer. When it's over, you move with routine. Wipe the skin clean, smooth the sheets, relight the candle if it's burned too low. He dresses in silence, or with too much noise. Some leave coins on the dresser without a word. Some offer awkward goodbyes. A few never look back. You wait until his footsteps vanish down the stairs. Only then do you unbolt the door, letting the air back in. And sometimes, when no one's watching, you sit on the edge of the bed and stare at your hands, as if checking to see if you're still whole. You are. For now. They say the law is supposed to protect women like you, but you've never felt protected by a constable's boots on the stair. The police come when they want, not when they're needed. You can't trust the knock. It might be a client, a drunk, or a sergeant with a badge and a smirk. There's no warrant, no courtesy. Just the swing of the door and the scraping of a truncheon against the wall. Some officers take bribes, quiet little envelopes slipped under the door on Saturday mornings. Some take favors. And some take pleasure in reminding you exactly where you stand in the social order. They might drag a girl out into the street, not for what she's done, but for what she represents. You learn quickly how to lower your eyes, how to make yourself small. Compliance buys silence. Most nights. Then there are the pimps. Not inside Madame Holloway's house, she doesn't tolerate men like that on her payroll, but you hear about them constantly. Girls from other streets with blackened eyes and emptied purses. Men who promise protection and deliver fists. They watch corners like hawks and speak with sweetness lined in steel. You met one, once. A smooth-talking man in a brown coat who said he could elevate your station. His smile was warm but his eyes never blinked. Madame ran him off with a fire poker. You were grateful, and a little afraid of how fast she'd done it. But pretending? That's the most dangerous game of all. Pretending you're fine. Pretending the gentleman who left bruises didn't mean it. Pretending that the life you live isn't slowly boiling the girl you used to be, bit by bit, until you only recognize her in dreams. And yet, pretending is also survival. You pretend to enjoy the company. You pretend you're not cold. You pretend you've chosen this. Because if you stop pretending, the truth might swallow you whole. The world outside calls you names. Tart. Strumpet. Fallen. But none of those words sting as much as the one you whisper to yourself when you let your guard slip. Forgotten. He comes once a month, like rent, like bleeding. You hear the sound of his walking stick before you see him, tap, tap, pause, echoing off the tiled hallway. Then comes the creak of his leather bag as he sets it down, always beside the same chair in Madame's office. No greetings. Just a nod, and the snapping open of polished brass clasps. He is not unkind. But he is not warm either. Dr. Ellery is thin, all bones and starch, with a white mustache and small spectacles that magnify the boredom in his eyes. He wears gloves, always, even when examining you. Especially then. No matter how warm the room, he never removes his overcoat. You line up with the other girls. Quiet. Waiting. The hallway smells of soap and candle grease, but also something sharper. Metal and disinfectant and dread. You take your turn when your name is called. Inside, the curtains are drawn. A single oil lamp flickers overhead, and the bed is covered in a white sheet that was boiled that morning. The doctor doesn't speak unless he must. He gestures with fingers, points at the basin. You undress from the waist down and climb up, legs apart, eyes fixed on the ceiling beams while his gloved hands prod and assess. The instrument he uses is cold, made of polished metal. It clicks open like a cruel little bird. The first time you saw it, you thought it looked like the beak of something dead. It pinches. Not painfully, but enough to make you wish you were somewhere else. He looks for signs. Lesions. Sores. Redness. Discoloration. You try not to think about what he sees, and whether he judges. His breath smells faintly of mint, like he's trying to pretend this is clinical, professional, detached. When he's done, he nods once. You're allowed to dress again. If everything is clean, he signs your name in a small black ledger kept by Madam's desk. If not, he speaks quietly, and you're told to rest, to wait, to drink boiled water and sleep in a separate room until you're better. No men allowed until your name clears. Some girls have failed inspection more than once. They come back pale, shaking, quieter than before. One did not come back at all. The doctor packs his bag and leaves the same way he came, tap, tap, pause. You hear the door close. The house exhales, like it's been holding its breath. You return to your room, sore and silent. It is the price of working clean. The price of working, period. You'd think with all that goes on behind closed doors, the girls would be too tired to squabble. But the real theater of the house plays out in the rooms between the work, over tea tins, hairbrushes, and cracked mirrors. Gossip is the lifeblood of the brothel. It snakes through the corridors like perfume. Who's making more than she claims? Who cried in the bath last night? Who's stealing laudanum? Who's got a new regular with a limp and a wedding ring? Nothing stays secret long, not love letters, not bruises, not even whispers muttered in sleep. You learn to guard your words. Smile when asked, nod when prodded. Never confirm. Never deny. Just listen. There are rivalries, of course. Some sharp as razors. Kitty and Maud won't speak to each other unless forced. They once fought over a sailor with deep pockets and a glass eye. He vanished months ago, but the bitterness lingers like smoke. Then there's Bess, tall, red-haired, laughs like a church bell. She gets the most clients, and she knows it. She twirls into the dressing room with new ribbons and fresh cakes from her favorite gentleman. She calls you pet, but only when she wants something. Still, when you were sick last month, it was Bess who brought you broth and a dry rag for your forehead. Rivalries here are complicated. No one forgets a slight, but kindness buys its own currency. Alliances form in quieter ways. A girl lends you a hairpin. Another slips you a spoonful of sugar when yours runs out. You patch her hem, she helps tighten your corset. Small mercies, traded like coins. The newest girl, Dolly, is barely 16. Freckles, nervous smile, fingers always picking at the hem of her shift. You watch over her without saying so. She reminds you of yourself, before the armor set in. She's not ready yet. Not for everything. You slip her your stronger tea blend and warn her, gently, not to trust the man who always asks for girls who look tired. Sometimes, after a long night, you all gather in the washroom with hot water and wine in tin cups. You soak your feet, lean your heads back against the cold tile, and tell the funniest stories you can remember, making each other laugh until someone cries. You aren't friends, not exactly. You're something stranger, sadder, stronger. A sisterhood forged in powder and shadow. In pain and powder and the unspoken vow to keep each other upright, even if just long enough to face another night. You keep it folded under your pillow, creased so many times the paper feels like worn linen. A letter from home, though home feels like a faraway place now, more memory than map. It came months ago, scrawled in your sister's crooked hand. She wrote about rain, about father's cough, about how the dog had puppies again. Nothing important, nothing dramatic. But you read it like scripture. Every word smells faintly of hay and soap. You imagine her sitting by the hearth, tongue poking from the corner of her mouth as she formed each letter. She doesn't know where you work. She only knows you found a place in the city. You wonder what she pictures. A shopgirl, maybe. Or a maid with polished buttons and a warm kitchen. You never write back. Not because you don't want to, but because you wouldn't know what to say. How do you explain this life? The split self, the constant pretending. How do you tell someone who still believes in springtime that your world is made of soot and silk and silence? Still, you read the letter on nights when your bones ache or your throat goes tight. You trace the words with your finger, slowly, like they might lead you back to the girl who once dreamed of a different life. Other girls have letters too. Some are love notes, some from mothers who beg them to return. One girl keeps a crumpled telegram from a brother lost at sea, just a name and the word missing. She never says anything about it. Just folds and refolds, until the edges blur into nothing. A letter means someone remembers you. That somewhere, in the world outside this house, someone thinks of you not as a commodity or a secret, but as a person with a past. With freckles. With a middle name. And even though you left that life behind, and even though your name has changed on Madam's books, there's a small part of you that still listens for the postman's knock. Just in case. Because maybe, just maybe, the next letter will say, "Come home. It's safe now." Sunday is the only day the house sleeps in. No clients. No knocking. No rustle of coin. Just the groan of bedsprings as the girls stretch out their tired limbs and blink against the soft gray morning that seeps through the curtains like forgiveness. Madam lets you stay in bed until noon, sometimes later if the week was rough. The kitchen smells of weak tea and frying drippings, someone's attempt at breakfast. The fire burns a little longer in the parlor. The air doesn't press against your skin so tightly. And if the weather holds, you might even go out. Not far. Just to Hyde Park, or the covered arcade where the windows gleam and the dresses in the shop seem like dreams stitched from moonlight. You can't afford anything, of course. But you walk slow and graceful, the way proper women do. Heads held high. Hands folded at the wrist. Laughing softly, like there's nothing at all to worry about. You wear your best dress, one that's not too frayed, with a ribbon fixed at the collar. You've powdered your nose and mended your gloves. You look like someone else. Someone respectable. Someone who gets letters from suitors and invitations to garden luncheons. Sometimes, you and another girl walk arm in arm and pretend to be cousins from the country, visiting a wealthy aunt. You nod politely at passers-by, speak in clipped tones, and imagine yourself belonging. Once, a boy offered you a flower. Just a yellow daisy, plucked from a park bush. He didn't know what you were. He only saw a young woman with clear eyes and a pretty laugh. You said, "Thank you," and tucked it into your bodice. You didn't stop smiling until the sky turned pink. These moments, small and stolen, are what you save. Not the men. Not the bed. Not the coins. But the way the sun hit your sleeve through a silk-draped window. The feel of a biscuit in your mouth that didn't taste of charity. The sound of boots on cobblestone that weren't coming for you. For a few precious hours, you are not a brothel girl. You are simply a girl. And you let yourself dream. Not big dreams, they're too fragile. Just small ones. A cottage somewhere green. A dress without stains. A room of your own. Then the sun lowers, and you turn toward home, not because you want to, but because you must. And as the city lights sputter awake around you, you press that dream between the pages of your memory, like a pressed flower, and carry it back with you. Back through the doors. Back to the creaking stairs. Back to who you must be. Until next Sunday. The house is quiet now. Not the muffled quiet of evening, but the deep, settled stillness of night's end, when even the city outside seems to hold its breath. The gas lights have been turned down, the ash has been emptied from the hearth, and the girls have vanished into their rooms, shadows wrapped in shawls and silence. You sit alone by the candlelight, undoing the night piece by piece. The corset lies slack on the floor. Your shift clings damply to your back. Your feet ache from hours in narrow boots, and your fingers are stained with rouge and powder. You reach for the basin and splash your face, cold water, metallic from the pipe. The rouge smears away in streaks. The girl in the mirror looks younger now, and somehow older too. A bruise is blooming on your thigh. You press it gently. Not a bad one. Nothing worth reporting. You light a second candle, just for the warmth. The flame trembles, like it's not sure it wants to stay. From somewhere down the hall, someone coughs. From somewhere below, a floorboard groans. And then, nothing. You wrap yourself in a threadbare shawl, crawl onto the narrow mattress, and pull the blanket up to your chin. The sheet smells faintly of lavender and old wood. You close your eyes. But sleep doesn't come easily. Not here. Not quickly. So you count. First, the tiles on the ceiling. Then the beats of your heart. Then the cracks in the plaster where the water drips sometimes when it rains. You think of the letter under your pillow. You think of the park on Sundays. You think of the name you used to answer to, and try to remember how it sounded in your mother's voice. Some nights, you cry. Quietly, into the pillow. Some nights, you smile. At nothing in particular. Some nights, you just breathe, and wait. And when the candle burns low, and the flame flutters like it's ready to leave this world, you whisper goodnight, to no one, to everyone, to the girl you once were. The flame gutters. The room darkens. And the day is done.